Hello, and welcome to 10-Minute Concert Insights, Schubert Club's new online version of the traditional pre-concert talk. My name is Mark Bilyeu, and I'm thrilled to join you for the 2024-2025 International Artist Series, opening with pianist Jeremy Denk. The first half of this concert features works by women. I'm actually going to repeat that. The entire first half of this concert features works by women. Why does that feel somehow radical and maybe a little exciting to say? So often we attend recitals and concerts that feature a work that is by a female identifying composer, only to have it be a 3-minute fanfare or the palate cleanser between two much longer works by men. Here, Jeremy Denk has curated a program that centers the work of women we know and women we may not. And the music on the second half is, in large part, thanks to one of the greats. As the youth would say, the GOAT, greatest of all time, Clara Schumann. We open with her Romance from 1853, originally conceived as a work for violin and piano for her and the violinist Joseph Joachim to play. A Berlin critic praised the set, declaring, "All three pieces display an individual character conceived in a truly sincere manner and written in a delicate and fragrant hand." Now, I wonder if Clara's husband Robert's hand was ever described as fragrant. I'm going to guess no. We'll return to Robert and Clara on the second half. Tania León's Ritual follows. Born in Havana, the composer and conductor won the 2021 Pulitzer Prize in Music for her work Stride, commissioned by the New York Phil, and was a 2022 Kennedy Center honoree. Here you can see her in that iconic rainbow medallion, alongside Gladys Knight, George Clooney, Amy Grant, and U2. She said, "I am who I am, thanks to my mestizo heritage and my ancestors from China, Nigeria, France, and Spain. I'm a citizen of the world with a global consciousness, and I do not like to be categorized by race, gender, or nationality. My music is my contribution to mankind. This is my heritage, and I'm proud of it." The rest of the first half includes music by either French or American-born women. The two French composers are Louise Farrenc and Cécile Chaminade. Louise Farrenc was born in 1804 and was quickly identified as a prodigy. She developed an illustrious playing career, but had to take private composition lessons as the Paris Conservatory did not allow women to study composition. Alongside her husband, she ran a music publishing house and continued to compose and perform. In 1842, she was appointed to the permanent position of professor of piano at the Paris Conservatory, the very institution that would not allow her to enroll as a composition student. She held that position for 30 years, one of the most prestigious studios in Europe, although she was only allowed to teach other women. The salary discrepancy between her and her male colleagues was drastic, and after the wildly successful 1850 premiere of her Nanette in E-flat, which featured Clara Schumann's close friend, Joseph Joachim, Farrenc went to the administration and demanded equitable pay, and it was immediately given to her. In an 1847 review of her Second Symphony, she was hailed as, quote, "the highest symphonic talent among women," adding that Farrenc was not only the first of her sex to approach the genre, but one whose symphonies a great many male composers would be proud to have written. Cécile Chaminade was born half a century after Farrenc and faced the same criticism and inequities. Like Farrenc, she was a highly accomplished pianist who earned success both in Europe and America. She was invited by Queen Victoria to play at Windsor Castle and was the first female composer to be awarded the Legion of Honor by the French government. "Her music has a certain feminine daintiness and grace," wrote one New York Evening Post critic after a Carnegie Hall concert in 1908 featuring her music. "But it is amazingly superficial. While women may someday vote, they will never learn to compose anything worthwhile," he continued. While we know this to be wildly untrue and really offensive, it's important to recognize that Chaminade experienced this criticism in real time. Envisioning her reading this man's asinine assessment over her morning breakfast is as frustrating as it is mind-boggling, and we can all be grateful for the resilience she had to continue writing her over 400 works in her lifetime. The Americans on the program, including Tania León, represent over a century of ingenuity. We begin with Amy Marcy Cheney Beach, whose Gaelic symphony was premiered by the Boston Symphony before she turned 30, marking it the first symphony composed and published by an American woman. After the premiere of her symphony, she received a letter from composer George Chadwick, who wrote that he had attended the Gaelic Symphony's premiere and enjoyed it. "I always feel a thrill of pride myself whenever I hear a fine work by any of us, and as such you will have to be counted in, whether you like it or not, one of the boys," he wrote. Ruth Crawford Seeger, like Beach, Farrenc, Chaminade, and Clara Schumann, was an exceptional pianist who did not know composing was a possibility, as no female role models existed. Her career is closely tied to her mentor-turned-husband, the musicologist Charles Seeger. Her music was considered boundary-pushing, but never entered into the realm of Schoenberg's avant-garde school. Take a look here at her Study in Mixed Accents from 1930. It's a 60-second tour de force with no meter, no key signature, and accents placed, as the title suggests, everywhere. Phyllis, Chen, Meredith Monk, and Missy Mazzoli are each artists who are continually expanding the genre we call classical music by incorporating extended techniques, exploring sounds through technology, and even creating entirely new instruments altogether. Missy Mazzoli was dubbed Brooklyn's post-millennial Mozart early in her career, and in 2018 was one of 2 women to first be commissioned by the Metropolitan Opera, a work set to premiere in 2026. Meredith Monk's legacy as an innovator and explorer of sounds just cannot be understated. She is a composer, a performer, director, vocalist, filmmaker, and choreographer. Her piano writing is often cinematic, as is the case with Paris, heard on this program. And Phyllis Chen describes herself as a pianist, a toy pianist, a composer, and a sound artist. She's often crafting new pianos for her music. Jeremy Denk will be performing on her gong piano, which replaces piano strings with clock chimes. The second half opens with a work by Robert Schumann, husband of Clara, where our concert began. It is a work that might be unfamiliar to you, his Ghost Variations. It is now generally agreed upon that Robert Schumann lived with a form of bipolar disorder. He suffered manic episodes alongside fits of wild creativity. In 1854, at the age of 44, he was reaching a breaking point. In the middle of the night, as February 17th turned to February 18th, he woke and penned a chorale he said was given to him by ghosts. These ghosts, which he described as both wonderful and hideous, gave him what he described as the most magnificent revelations, while also threatening to send him to hell. What Robert didn't understand is that he had already used that melody twice, in fact, in a string quartet and in his leader album For the Young. The next morning, he set about writing a set of variations on his new theme. While he was still working on them, on February 27th, 10 days later, he was hit with another manic episode and flung himself into the freezing Rhine River. He was saved by some onlookers and returned home to continue his composing. The next day, he finished the set and sent them immediately to Clara. Just days later, at his own request, he was institutionalized in an asylum, where he spent the next 2 years until his death. His Ghost Variations were to be the last thing he wrote. Clara told no one about this set of variations and would not allow them to be performed, much less published. It was not until 1939, nearly 40 years after Clara's death, that the work would be published. The program concludes with Brahms' Handel Variations, written in 1861 by 28-year-old Johannes Brahms. They are dedicated to his beloved friend, Clara Schumann, who premiered the work in Brahms' hometown of Hamburg just 2 months later. I am so looking forward to this program, which answers Beyoncé's iconic question, who runs the world? Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time here at the Schubert Club.